If you are about to start a new community right now, where would you start?
Well, I think I would look at what are the goals of what you're starting the community for. In my experience, a lot of people start communities for all the wrong reasons. The main reason being they want a new channel that's going to help them nurture and bring in new leads. And, I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to do that. But I think community is a very different channel in the sense where it really does take time and it's really about building relationships and helping people in your community meet others and get value that way. So it's very different in the sense where it's like, I'm not going to create a piece of content that's going to make people love me and pay attention to me. Instead, I'm going to put the right people in the room so that they connect with and get value from each other. And then that equity passes back to my brand. But that's not just something you can turn on, flip a switch and get leads from. It's a different long tail type play. So I think it really depends why you want to start the community and making sure you're doing it for the right reasons. And if that's not the case, then I wouldn't start one.
Yeah. I mean, like, I would say, like, at the end of the day, the goal is always, like, kind of, to get more leads or, to build more relationships that will, down the road result in more
Mhm.
leads or more customers or whatever. But, like,
Yeah.
I would say I definitely agree with you that if you start, just with getting more leads or sales as the main goal, that's a no, right?
So, yep.
That's something that will come as a byproduct of everything else. So considering that you have the right intentions, right, and you have an existing audience, right, how do you go from there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, how do you start a community? Like, I think what I would do if I were starting a community and I had those right foundations set up, I would say, okay, let me try and pilot maybe a 25 person community. Let me start with 25 people that I really want in the community. And I'm going to say, okay, I have a month to get these 25 people in the community. I'm going to make sure that at the end of this month, I have a really strong offer that's going to want them to join by this certain date. So let's say, at the end of the 20 or at the end of the month, with those 25 people, we're going to bring in like the CMO of HubSpot to do a roundtable on how to implement AI across your B2B marketing org or something like that. So that's the pull to get those first 25 people in. And then once those first 25 people in, that's when I'm really doing the initial grunt work to get the community up and running. So I'm making sure the onboarding is super smooth. I'm making sure that the members know who the other members are. I'm making sure that I'm setting up some kind of matchmaking program, maybe to get people to meet one another, get to know one another. I'm also making sure that I'm just talking to my users and learning and building out the community the way they want it to be built out. So I think like high level, that's how I would do it is I would start with a pilot. And then from there, you're just taking your learnings and building on there. So that's like high level strategy as to what I would do. There's also the element of like how am I actually going and setting it up. So like picking the right platform to start your community. That's a question that I get all the time is like, should I start it on Facebook, Slack? Should I use a third party tool like a Circle, like Exit 5 does? And my honest answer to that is like, I'm not gonna say it doesn't matter. It does, but in Exit Five's case, we started as a Facebook community and then switched to a Circle community. So I would say just start with whatever is an easy place that your users will interact. So that could be Facebook, that could be Slack. And then if you ever have a compelling reason to switch to a more advanced community platform one day, then go ahead and do that. But
Yep.
if your community is thriving in one of those free platforms, then hey, like just keep it there. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think wherever you can get it to work. So I think those are like some of the two elements at least when starting a community that people need to consider.
You forgot the Patreon, by the way. You said
Hmm.
Facebook, the Circle, but Patreon. Yeah.
True.
But,
Yeah.
but
True
by the
that.
way, I was in fun fact. I think I was like the member 20 or 30 of the Exit
Wow.
5. Yeah.
Wow.
I pretty much
That's
from
crazy.
from the day one there. I think that there was
Yeah.
called something like A list, the first version. something like
It
that?
might have been, yeah. Yeah, I was like same here, I was super early, I don't even think I was that early, I was DGMG, but, yeah, I
Yeah,
think that might have been the first name.
yeah, yeah. So something like that. When I know that they
Yeah,
launched a new Patreon. So
yeah.
yeah. I'm telling you, like, if someone is about to build a community, right? How can you differentiate that community from the other communities out there? Because, like, for example, Exit 5, for example, is doing an amazing job. Pavilion is doing an amazing job, right? And
Yep.
there might be some other, more specific communities for content, for example, Jimmy Dall's one or whatever it is, right? So what would be the main, unique selling points and differentiators between the communities? Like, is it the niching down, or like the type of content that's published there? How would you approach that?
Yeah, I think it's both. I think that, if you look at Exit 5, like the ones you mentioned, Exit 5, Pavilion, Jimmy's Community, I think it's Superpath, right? Yep. Um, if you look at those 3, one thing that they all have in common is they were somewhat of a first mover to a certain space, right? So Dave, Exit 5, was one of the first to start talking about B2B marketing in the way we were. Pavilion, the same with, revenue. Jimmy and his team, the same with content, right? So we were able to go broad and say this is a community for B2B marketers, or this is a community for revenue people. But I think that's going to be harder for new entrants. So if I was a new entrant and I was like, okay, I'm a B2B marketer, but my background is in fintech. So specifically, I want to, like, maybe it's like B2B marketing is my thing, but I found that I'm really good and can do damage in the fintech space. All right, maybe I'm going to just go at it strictly from the fintech angle and say this is for B2B marketers in fintech, as an example. Now, maybe because of that, your community will be only a fraction of the size of an Exit 5 or Pavilion, but what you can do is you can really narrow down and charge those people a lot more and just make it this super premium high-end specialty community. I think that's a great angle, is like we're for more of a specific person, because even at Exit 5's case and Pavilion's case or whoever, I'm not going to speak for any of those other communities, but in Exit 5's case, the larger we get, the more we need to create sub communities. So that's like your a local community or a space just for people in ABM, etc. So we need to do that anyway once we get to a certain size. So if you're a new entrant, I think it's like better to just start there. And then maybe if you find let's say you started a community specifically for people in ABM, that companies from 10 to 50 million, maybe you find that a lot of people that are 50 to 100 million also want to be part of your community and are joining, then maybe you start to expand from there. So I think you could actually start with a sliver and then increase the size of it, as opposed to the other way around. I think that's a better way to wedge yourself in. Um, and then, yeah, the content piece is big. I think, though, if you have the intention of having a smaller and specific niche, then that informs the content and informs the programming of the community. So that becomes your differentiated angle.